Hello, and welcome to my podcast, Stories from the Set. This is my first podcast on this channel, and since I'm doing a lot of firsts, I decided that I would be my own first guest. That way you can kind of understand, I don't know, a little bit about me, a little bit about what I do, or what I did anyways, what I've done. Essential my resume. And like with everything else, my first job, which was a pattern for me, in the entertainment industry. Well, wait a second. Let's start with the first time I was on the set, since this is called Stories from the Set. Okay. It is 1994, maybe 95. Somewhere around there. I'm newly married. I'm living in Brentwood. It was around, in fact, it was the same year that OJ got arrested. The murders, so it was the same year of the Ron Goldman and Nicole Brown murders. In fact, the apartment my new bride and I were living in was right next to Ron Goldman's apartment. And just to give you an idea how crazy it was, I was actually outside. I was actually in my apartment one day, and I heard all these helicopters, and they were getting louder and louder and louder. Turns out the OJ jury traveled down my street, but anyway, traveled down my street for the case so they can get an idea how small the little area of Brentwood is, and it's quite small. It's a small little, I don't know, nook. Anyway, what does this have to do with my first job in Hollywood? Okay, well, it just turns out that my first job was working for Roger Corman at Concord New Horizons, which is on, I think still to this day, on San Vicente Boulevard in Brentwood. Anyway, the first time I was on a set, I can't remember what year it was. I'm kind of vague on that, but it was, early mid-90s. I'm supposed to deliver a package to the set, to one of the directors or a producer that was on the set of our production in Venice Beach. It was the Venice Beach studio. It was an old lumberyard. It's just like Roger to repurpose something for his benefit. Anyway, so this is the first time I'm on a set, and I arrive there, and I'm told I can't. I arrive there. I tell who's ever in charge of checking me into the set. Onto the, I don't know, studio, the lumberyard, and they told me how to get to the stage where they were shooting at, and not to go in until unless the light was off. Okay, so the light was on when I was there, and finally the light went off, and I opened up the stage door, and I walked in, and I turned around, and I had never seen so many nude people ever in my life. And I'm just like, what the? I don't know what we were filming. I can't remember what the film was. I can't remember. I just remember that the guy who was like the main financier was like from France or something like that. Anyway, I was delivering something to him. He was on the set. So I don't know what it is. So I asked where he's at, and he's sitting over in his chair behind the director watching the scene, and I'm like, this is the most surreal moment of my life. There are probably about, I don't know, dozen more, so like 24 people, men and women, there on the set in what I can only assume to be mostly nude. So women had their tops off, men had, I honestly, I just remember the boobs, to be honest with you. I tried, that's all I remember. I just remember there were a lot of boobs. Anyway, I give this gentleman his package. They were actually in the middle of, the reason why I had so much time to stare and be shocked was because they were, back in that day, loading a new tape into the, or a new reel into the ever-changing reels. So, which we kind of still do now. But anyway. And so I had a little time, so I gave him the package. He asked me, and he thanked me, and I made my way out. And on my way out the door, they're yelling, roll, they're doing the call, I guess you would say. And as I'm opening the door, and the director gives out one directorial instruction that I have remembered for this day, to this day, from ever since it happened to me. Quote, and I don't know who the director was. The director said, "Okay, everybody grab a partner, start simulating sex, action!" And I was like, what the... That was my first time on a set, a movie set, in Hollywood. It was on some Roger Corman film, or some film that he was making with somebody. I don't know. But anyway, my first job was working for Roger Corman. Well, not directly for him, but like... It was at the time I had just been married, and I was looking for work, but I wanted to be in the entertainment industry, and I'd never had an entertainment job. I just happened to look in the newspaper, because there were no websites during this time for jobs. I mean, maybe Monster.com was around somewhere, but I doubt anybody used it. Nobody was going online, basically. We still had to rent our porn. That's all I'm saying. The internet was not strong. Anyway, I answered an ad for jobs in the paper, and I think it was a local. I think it was a local paper. I'm not too sure, but it was for someone to intern and answer phones. And I said, okay, I'm going to go intern and answer phones at this production company that's, I'm a block away from, block and a half away from, or a block away as the crow flies. So I go there. I meet this guy. He's just kind of staring out the window. And, no, I call up. I actually call first. I call. And I say, hey, look, I'm interested in being an intern, but, I don't want to just, like, get coffee or anything like that. He's like, no, you'll be really involved. You'll even get paid a little bit and blah, blah, blah. And I'm like, okay, I'll do it. I think his name was Ryan, if I'm not mistaken. I could be wrong. Anyway, go to meet Ryan, and to be honest with you, Ryan was just, like, staring out the window, because he was just like so bored of answering those phones there to me, He wanted to be anywhere else but there. I can't remember what he wanted to do, but anyway. So he introduces me to Jan Glazer. He says, I will be interning with her. I'm like, okay. And Jan Glazer was the casting director for Concord New Horizons. So that was my first job, interning for Jan Glazer at Concord New Horizons. I don't remember what I did. I remember sorting, and Jerry Whitworth. Jerry Whitworth was her assistant. So Jerry was showing me what to do, you know. We would sort headshots between, I don't know. I don't remember. I just remember sorting a lot of headshots. I think just men and women. I think we sorted between men and women, and then like older, younger, boys, girls, things like that, because Jan got a lot of submissions. And I worked there for a while, and I answered phones, and eventually I got to meet Roger, and I knew who Roger was. I knew there was this guy, Roger Corman, who gave, you know, the launch to many a director. People can quote me if I'm wrong on this, but I think I know Jonathan Demme, and I think the most famous of them all is, well, yeah, the most famous, or the one that everybody knows about, is Ron Howard. Ron Howard, Jonathan Demme, I want to say Francis Ford Coppola, and wait a second, James Cameron. So a lot of people came out of there. At the time, I just wanted to be in the film industry. I wanted, let me rephrase that. I wanted to be in the entertainment industry. At the time, I wanted to be an actor, but to be honest with you, I didn't put in the time or the work, or I tried taking classes, but I got ripped off, and I got pretty negative about it. So an initial way, I did get my name in a movie. I was never in it on a Roger Corman film. I think it was called, I don't remember what it's called. Anyway, but but I never got on film for him. Anyway, after working there for a while, I ran into a gentleman named Bill Bromley. Bill Bromley was the Executive VP of Domestic Distribution for Concord New Horizons. I used to have to say that a lot. Anyway, I started working for Bill. And that was when I got my first introduction to Roger Corman. My task given to me, I believe it was either Bill or Michael Amato. Michael Amato was the marketing, VP of marketing. Yeah, VP of marketing. Him and some other guy were the VPs of marketing. I can't remember his name. I just remember he was almost good enough to go to the Olympics. Anyway, so, well, you know, if I'm just going to start mentioning people, let me tell you who the people I worked with at the time. There was Marianne Rodini in publicity. There was Mike and Rob. Mike Elliott and Rob, I don't remember Rob's last name. Anyway, Darren Spillman was there. Ed, I think his last name was O'Neill, not the famous one. I could be wrong on his last name. But Ed was the attorney there. Brian was the other attorney there. At least I think his name was Brian. Cheryl was... wow, what was Cheryl? And I can't remember Cheryl's last name. Cheryl was... I don't know, I guess you want to say the number 2 under Roger? Yeah, you had a woman in a very high position there, Roger. And there was Julie. Julie had her office. I know there's people I'm forgetting. Francis I don't remember Frances' last name, but she was like in the head writing department, and there was somebody else. And anyway, so if you recognize any of those names, those were the people who I was working with. I was Bill Bromley's executive assistant. I don't know if Bill would have called me a good executive assistant. I was, I don't know, adequate. I'll give myself adequate. You know, anyway. So it was a great place to be an executive assistant, because that's how you work your way up. You start off at executive assistant in the corporate part of the entertainment industry. You start off small and you go hop in from bigger place to bigger, you know, work up a reputation. Work it up. But me, I don't know. I thought I was popular because of who I was working there with Bill. But I was popular for where I worked. There were many people, once they knew I worked for Roger Corman, who would bring me to their offices, be all nice, you know, want to be my friend, and, you know, down the line, eventually it would come, hey, I got this film, or hey, can you get me a meeting, or hey. But nonetheless, I didn't interpret it as them using me. I interpreted it as, oh, I have power and popularity. Pardon me. That was my phone. Anyway. Where was I? Oh, yeah. But power that I didn't know how to wield. Okay, I guess you could say. I mean, I got invited to parties. I mean, I was there during the perfect time for indie, because there was an indie movie revolution. And who was the most indie of all the indies? Roger Corman. Everybody in Hollywood knows who Roger Corman is. And if you don't, you're a moron. Roger Corman. So, I thought, you know, there was a bit of me that thought my shit didn't stink, and I was young and stupid, and thinking that because people wanted me to come to their parties, it was because I was popular. And believe me, I could make phone calls. I used to speak with, like, well, not heavy hitters, but I knew Talia Shire quite well. During that time, she would call because she did a movie with Roger. She directed, I think that was her first directorial film. So I get invited to parties and people know my name, which was weird because there were some people I didn't know. So I always thought that was kind of strange. Why would anybody know my name? I don't even know who you are, but I'm the guy that works at Roger Corman. Well, I ride the highs. I get invited to screenings and things like that. Not great A-list screenings, but, you know, indie movie screenings. I think the biggest indie movie that came out when I was there was Kevin Smith. Kevin Smith and I are contemporaries. I think his movie came out the same year I started working for Roger. Or maybe it came out earlier, I don't know. But I remember that movie coming out. And I used to get mistaken for Kevin Smith because I don't know, we've always been about the same weight, and I had long hair and a beard, and I even got into this one girl at a party. Her came in, and I was just sitting at the bar, and she's like, with my friends, and she's like, "You're Kevin Smith, aren't you?" And I'm like, no, I'm not Kevin Smith. Yes, you are. No, I'm not. I'm not Kevin Smith. Yes, you are. You don't have to lie to me. Okay, fine. I'm Kevin Smith. No, you're not. So that's how that went. Anyway, my boss eventually left Roger Corman to go start his own company. I think it was First Look Entertainment or something like that. And I'm sorry, I gotta answer this phone. I'm just gonna take it. Hello. Hi, I'm doing my podcast right now. Yeah, I know I didn't tell you, but I'm broadcasting live. I just decided to pick up the phone. So, what time do you want me to come pick you up? Nobody can hear you, so. Okay, all right. I'll try and wrap this up as quick as possible. All right. Okay, I won't run by. That was my significant other. I dropped her off at work today, so. Anyway, back where I was. So my boss left for, I think it was First Look Entertainment or First Look Picture or something like that. Him and, what is his name? He's a Canadian actor. He was with SCTV. He was on that show with Brett Butler. He was one of the Mackenzie brothers. I can't remember if he was Bob or Doug. Anyway, that guy. Anyway, he left, and he couldn't tell me he was leaving. He was just like, one day, I'm leaving, I'm going to another company, I can't take you with me, blah, 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 blah. And because I had seen other young executives there take over for positions, example, Jerry Whitworth, eventually became a casting. I don't think Jen was still there. I think he was just like now a casting director as well. He was no longer, or did she leave? I can't remember. I honestly can't remember if Jen was still there or not. But I know Jerry Whitworth was doing a lot of casting, and I know that Darren Spillman took over for Mike Elliott, and then somebody took over for Rob, and I can't remember her name, and I don't think she really liked me anyways, but that's neither here nor there. But anyway, so I thought, I'm gonna get Bill's job. I really did. I'm like, here's my chance. I'm now the executive VP of domestic distribution, blah, blah, blah. Very naive of me to think that. It really was. And they told me, well, that wasn't going to happen. And I went, okay. And they said, but we're going to give you two choices. You can take over a sales region. They were going to start me off as a salesperson, which at the time I was offended, believe it or not, by telling me that I had to start off as a video salesman, one of our salespeople. it was an insult to me at the time. I didn't show it that way, but I'm like, what's my other choice? And they're like, we'll get you started at the studio. You can do something over there. I don't know what's available, but just call over to the studio. I'm like, oh, gotta go work at the studio? I said no to both jobs. And I ended up getting fired eventually. And I got fired because I believed, because I think I always had like great, oh man, I had a good line earlier. I can't remember what it was. But anyway, I got fired eventually by Goalie and Gita. Well, Goalie's the one who fired me. They were sisters that worked for Roger from Iran. Lovely women. Roger was a nice guy. Well, Roger was quiet, definitely quiet. But he did speak with like authority. Not a quiet authority. Like, you better listen to this guy. He knows what he's talking about. And he did, man. Oh, boy. Did he? But that was my first failure. Not taking those jobs because they were beneath me. In my opinion. Was I too arrogant? Yeah. Because people who I didn't know knew my name. But I don't even remember. I think I was just kind of like so devastated for a while. I didn't know what to do. I think I moved back in with my parents after that. I think I drove limos after that. And then my friends started working at the traffic department for this company called Foxnet. And I'll tell you about the story that mentioning that. I'll tell you about the story of my second job and second failure in Hollywood. That's for another time. I've got things to do. But the moral of the story is, before I go, is that no job in this industry should be beneath you. And I know, because you're willing to take, you're willing to take any job that will give you the ability to do what you want to do. So from executive assistant, working for a pioneer in indie film, in the independent films, to me today, picking up people's garbage, trash at a theater in Beverly Hills. I'm willing to do that because I want to do this. I want to take a bet on myself. I've always been afraid, and I don't want to be afraid anymore. So I started this without even knowing how to do a podcast. I bought equipment last year. I just said, I gotta stop putting it off and just do it. So I'm doing it. I'm making mistakes because every failure has got me to here. The willingness to pick up garbage, to talk to people who I think have something to say. That's it. It's the end of my podcast. You all have a good night.